Hi everyone, Lorna Evans here, and in this tutorial what I'd like to share with you is what tools are in my kit. It's by far one of the questions I often get asked is, what do you use? So the tools that go in your kit are very, very important, and also what is important is making sure we haven't got too much in our kit. So I'm going to show you how I've managed over the years to minimalise what is in there so that everything gets used and used often. So let's get straight into it and get started. I'm going to start with electrical because it's probably one of your biggest investments into your toolkit. So the first thing you're going to need, of course, is a good old hairdryer. I personally use the GHD dryer, but when you're looking for a hairdryer, one of the most important things to do is get something with one of these on it, which of course is the cool shot on the button. So if you don't know what a cool shot is for, it is actually for setting the hair and making sure that you cool it. If you actually go high heat cool, you'll get a much nicer finish. A lot of the hair dryers have it sitting here so that what you're doing is you're continually trying to fiddle, and I see that quite often in my classroom. So try really hard not to get something where you've got the cool button here. Something where you can just press it as you're working is perfect for me. So a really good strong hair dryer. I do see quite often people coming into the classroom and they haven't got a great hair dryer, and it really does make a difference. Second item that's in my kit is a wand, and I like the ones that actually have the interchangeable. Either that, it doesn't have to have an interchangeable, but I don't and it's just preference. Everything I'm ever showing you again is just preference to what I like. I don't particularly like a tong with an arm. So I really do like to have just the straight rod, and that works really well. So two brands that I highly recommend are H2D, and the other one is Silk of Morocco, which I love that because it's actually a gold plated iron as well. So that's my hot tip with one of these. Moving right along, the only other thing that I like, of course, I have always got a flat iron, and that's always a GHD flat iron, and I just go for the normal size plate. I actually don't use it a lot unless I'm texture setting. So just a basic flat iron is fine. This is my next favourite little baby that's in my kit, which is the Sam Via, he calls it the texture iron. So, and you may call it a crimper, but really it is there for texture. And there is a big difference between a texture iron and a crimper. And the texture iron has a lot smaller teeth and creates more texture rather than a crimp. But what I also love is that it's not too wide. So it's not too wide a plate, which is awesome. So GHD have also brought out a crimper that you may have seen. It's a beautiful crimper if you're wanting a crimped finish, but if you're ever wanting to just do voluming at the crown, I like this because it's just a bit finer, whereas the GHD is about the double the plate. So if you're wanting to have one or the other, I must admit I love the Sam Via. So you can get that on Sam's website. The only downside is, of course, he's an American brand, so I just have to buy the adapter and keep that in my kit as well. Okay, so we've passed electrical, and as you can see, there's not a lot in there, but plenty to get us through what we need to for our bridal or our evening. So let's get straight into brushes, and I've got on here, I don't know, it's probably hard to see this. This is my magnetic styling belt, and everything pretty much goes into this belt as I'm working. So actually, yeah, maybe we should start with why I'm doing this, because you won't be able to see this as I'm placing it down. Why did I choose to have this magnetic styling belt? And it comes in gold, by the way, and black leather. So this is for my vegans. It's made of PU, and the leather one is a natural leather. But this strip across here, I can see that just there, is actually a magnetic strip. And everything that I'm always trying to do is actually how to make things easier. So I want it right at my fingertips. I don't want to be chasing a trolley. We're absolutely positive. Or absolutely necessary, I should say. So if we start with pins rather than brushes first, just so that you can see the magnetic strip. So in my kit I have, and we will talk pins actually, in my kit I have long bobby pins. So you can see that goes on my magnetic strip. So I'm going to put a couple of those on there. And I also have, let's see, I've got the normal everyday size bobby pins that you and I use. Probably, I would say a third of the time these are used, and I'm going to show you why. Because I would say most of the time in my kit, I'm actually using the tiny little baby pins. So you need 3 different size pins, and I like to have them all there on that magnetic strip. So the only other pin that I use, which I always actually laugh about this one, because this is the long, and I call it a fringe pin, but when you're purchasing, it is actually called a ripple pin. Now you should only ever buy 1 tub of these ever in your life, and that is because I personally never leave them in the hair. I personally always take them out of the hair, and these are like your scaffolding. So if you think about when you see a building being built, they don't ever walk away, leave it finished with the scaffolding there. They take the scaffolding away. That's what I do with these pins. So all of my pins will actually sit across the bottom of my magnetic strip, which means that when I go to work with each one of them on my magnetic wristband, it actually sits there like so, and then I can open it up with using the toggle, not my teeth. So I found they have made my life so much easier to work with. So if I think of what else is going to go on that magnetic strip, is there's generally 2 kinds of clips that I like to use. So of course we're going to need little pin curl clips. Now when you're purchasing your pin curl clips, do yourself a favour, don't purchase the double pronged clips. Now let me see, I may have one sitting in here because sometimes they just get lost and put in there. No, so no, I'm glad to say that there is no double-sided clips in my kit, because I must admit they are probably my least favourite, and I don't know why, but I always seem to come home with them. But can you see how that one is just 1 piece? So really, really a great little clip. When I'm not working with them, they sit here, so that what I can do is keep loading up what I'm using. The other little clip that I use, and I particularly like to use the long barreled aluminium clips, and the reason that I like these is when I'm working with any sort of form of curls, because I actually generally work in larger sections. So anything I'm working with a larger section, I will use the large ones. Okay, so they can always sit on the magnetic strip as well, but I also tend to, on my belt, line them up all along here because I use them for different bits and pieces. So, okay, so now let's talk brushes. Whenever you're working with a brush, and yes, this is my brush, it's the Time Saver brush, but the reason that I actually designed this brush is because I really believe if you're serious about getting really good at your styling, your preparation is going to be really key. And you'll notice that when you come in to the online program, that we talk a lot about the preparation, but it's also going to be speed. So I've always liked a ball bristle brush. So you need to use a ball bristle brush, and this one is ball bristle and nylon. It's hard to say all together. So ball bristle and nylon together. So the ball bristle is actually going to give you the tension on the hair, and the nylon is actually going to give you the shine. So the really cool thing about this brush too is it's got good grip, and it's got a little pointy end, so that when I take my section, it's really quick and really easy. So I'm going to be working a lot with that in the on the online program, and I'm going to pop that one straight into my bag. So you're also going to need to have a soft brush out brush. So Mason and Pearson are awesome. This is actually the Denman version, and I actually really like it. You can see I don't even have a name on there anymore. I've used it for quite a while now. So the Denman brush is actually really good as well. So it's a nice cushioned brush. So if you can avoid using, say, a paddle brush or something like that when you're actually working with curls, I think you'll find you'll get a much more polished finish. So that's an always must in my kit, is that one there. So, and I also have in the same range, because depending on, sometimes that's a bit too big. If I'm working with smaller areas, I've actually got the baby one in that as well. So that one's actually just got my sticker on the back there, because sometimes they go walkabouts. I don't know why. But yeah, so I've got the baby version of that. So that's a really important part of my kit. Okay, so let's talk about combs now. So for combs, I've actually got 4 different combs that I use. The first one that I use a lot, I use it for directional blow drying. I use it for creating the perfect waves and the perfect ponytails, and that's our curved comb. So it's made of carbon, and carbon combs are always going to be my preference. And the reason being is there's no flexibility. So you're going to get a really nice strong finish to whatever you're actually working with. So I love my curved comb. The second one, of course, you're always going to have is a good old tail comb. Invest a little bit more money. They're not, when I say a little bit, it's not a lot of money, but try and avoid the really bendy plastic combs if you can, and go straight for a carbon comb. Again, it's about having the control and the strength behind it, and I think that's why I love a carbon comb. Which I suppose brings me to this one here, which is I've been actually working with this particular comb for, oh gosh, it must be up close to a year, and they will be in our hot little hands very, very shortly, but it'll be exactly the same shape as this, but can you see the flexibility that's in this? That's what I didn't like. So what we have done is we've actually designed this to come in carbon. So it will actually be made of the same product as this. So I'm quite fussy, as you can tell, with my combs, but you really do get a much nicer finish. So one of these is perfect. Now, why do I use this? So opposed to, when would I use this compared to using a normal tail comb? When it's big work, when you're actually taking really thick, big sections and really long sections, you're going to be able to plow through and actually work really nice and fast, and then you can refine with your smaller comb. So a really good one to have. So watch this space, they shouldn't be too long at all. And last of my combs is my friend Natalie Ann's. If you're not following Natalie Ann, I'm sure you're about the one of only people in the world. So Natalie Ann, fabulous hairdresser, and she's actually designed the teasing comb. So you've got your metal area at the end, and of course you've got your teasing piece here. So that's a great little tool for combing your work out as well. Okay, so the next couple of bits and pieces that I'm going to talk about is, let's chat about this little baby. So this is called the stitch, and the stitch is actually being developed by a very clever gentleman in America called Daniel Rowland. And why do you need the stitch? Because gosh, this little baby makes your life easy. So whenever you're doing a ponytail, I'll show you how to flip it through. You can actually create lots of beautiful different shapes with it as well. So have a look on Daniel's website, which is just www.danielrowland, I think. They are also available if you're in Australia. They're on our website as well. And I'm going to show you over the course of the 4 weeks a couple of different things to do with this tool. So that's the stitch, and it doesn't take up much room at all, which is really good. So a little bit different. So clips. So when you're working with sectioning clips, and I'm going to do another shout out now. These are from Sorters Out, and I like the big bulldog clips. I call them the big bulldog clips, because you don't want to be mucking around trying to get the hair to stay, especially when you're working with quite heavy hair. So a nice big bulldog clip. So a couple of those, probably around about 4 is what I have usually sitting on my belt. The next clip that I've got, if you like waves, if you're wanting to create beautiful modern finger waves, if you're wanting to crisp up just one little, wave at the side here, these are ours as well, and these are our waving clamps. So I don't know if you can see how strong I've actually got to be to open those up, and the length of them is brilliant. So they're longer, and they're stronger. They've got an arch in them, so they actually mould to the shape of the head, and they just make sense, and they're gold. So, okay, so polishing. Polishing in my kit, I have always got one of these. So just a good old makeup brush. You know, you don't have to be too fancy. You don't have to be, you know, too expensive, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. It really doesn't make, I don't find it makes any difference. It's just a really nice basic makeup brush is really good. Oh, and there's one other thing that I forgot to actually get for you to show you that is always in my kit. And you can tell it's almost my kit because my kit's sitting right down there. And that's just a piece of basic satin from the haberdashery store. So why do I use the satin? This is what I lay over the hair, and I'll show you obviously the technique behind it to create a really glass finish. It never stays in the hair, but it is something that I use a lot to get a really beautiful finish on hair without using a can of hairspray. So definitely, and it's quite entertaining really. So that is that. What else have I got to share with you? Okay, two other things which are a little bit odd, actually probably three, is number one is, yes, it is a knitting needle. We call it the styling needle now, and it works a treat. So you're going to need one of these. They are on our website because we got asked so many times for them. And do you know how long it took me to find a pink sparkly long jumbo knitting needle? But honestly, as much as it looks funny, I will show you how to use the styling needle, not the knitting needle, in quite a few different ways to create beautiful French rolls and lots of different rolls. It is a really terrific product to use. That one, by the way, is 25 mils. So it's 25 mils. And that lives in my styling belt and gets quite a lot of laughs. Okay, so this little baby here, you may have heard me talk, I think I was talking on a live the other day. I picked up a really hot tip from a celebrity stylist, and it's something I'm using a lot. It is a basic kitchen sponge. And all I want you to do is go and buy a new one, don't get it from the kitchen, and cut it up into squares. And I'm going to show you how to tame the top of the hair using some product in one of these. So just get yourself a little kitchen sponge. It's just a basic kitchen sponge, and I have to tell you, this is a hot tip I think you're going to really love to work with. I have 3 different bands in my kit. If I'm using an elastic band, you're going to want to get yourself a size 13 elastic band. Okay, so a size 13 elastic band. I find this is the most easy size to use. You can pick them up in Officeworks or any places like that, and that is a really good size to work with. The next thing that I use is a snag band. So the snag bands are the 1 centimetre snag bands. Don't go too large, and you'll see when I start to show you what it is we actually do with the bands that you're not going to want the really large ones. And then last but not least, probably my favourite band, and we call them secret bands now. So secret bands are really tiny, tiny little bands, and if you've ever worn braces, you'll know what they are. They're basically braces bands, but we think secret band sounds nicer. So there is a kit, by the way, on our website, which is a beginner's kit. If you want us to do your shopping for you, it's got all the bands, it's got all the bits and pieces, so it's all sitting there for you as well. So we can send all that off for you. Now, before we go on that one, actually one little thing that I forgot to go for. So just when you think I've showed you everything, you are definitely going to need to go to the haberdashery store, or again, it's in that little kit. So we have done all this shopping for you. It's all the little bits and pieces if you don't want to go and get it all. This is a bodkin needle. It's got the needle on the end, and this is some linen thread, and I'm going to show you how to stitch hair. And seriously, if you like modern, easy, sexy hair, I'm going to show you a very, very easy way to produce it with these two to products. In that kit as well is one of these babies. It is a latch hook made for making a rug, but I promise you we will be making no rugs, but you definitely will want one of these in your kit. So they're all available on our website. Now, one thing I do want to actually talk about before I go is what bobby pins or what brand bobby pins to actually buy. My hottest tip is probably not what brand to buy. My hottest tip is what I find the best is the pins that actually come in the tub on the plastic rail. And the reason that I say that is because a lot of the pins, when they're loose, and I'm sure you've actually experienced this, they just bend and they buckle. And when you've got pins that bend and buckle, you're going to find that is going to be very, very, very difficult to have in your kit, because they don't help you. So choose a brand that they're all on here, and I promise you'll find that much, much easier to work with. So I hope they were some hot little tips for you. And if you've got any questions whatsoever, please, this is perfect to start to talk about in our closed Facebook page that you of course will be invited into, and we can all share all the bits and pieces that we love to work with. So see you on the online program, and again, any questions, please let me know. See ya.